What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm going to teach you how to use Zacian-Crowned in less than 10 minutes. If you guys are excited for the video, then make sure to leave a like on the video and of course comment which Pokemon you want to see next. Let's do it. As always, we'll be talking about the Pokemon's stats, move pools, abilities, potential items, and potential partners, really bad partners, team examples, and of course its place in the metagame. But before we do all that, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the history of Zacian, because it's interesting. To me, and I think this is no argument here, Zacian is the best Pokemon ever created. Period. There is no other Pokemon. You think it's Mega Ray? No way. Mega Ray doesn't have the type of speed to stand up with Zacian. The typing is nowhere near as good. And of course its move pool isn't as diverse, at least in my opinion. Zacian is one of the best Pokemon ever created. Now let's go ahead and start talking about its stats. So being a special legendary form, it's easy to see why Zacian is so busted. It has 720 as its base stat total, with 170 in its attack stat, which is the 5th highest attack stat in the entire game, which is saying something because we haven't even spoken about its ability yet, which we'll get to in a little bit. But on top of that, it has no business being this fast. It has 148 base speed, which is actually incredible. And to put that into perspective, it is the 6th highest base stat total in the entire game. So the 5th highest attack, the 6th highest speed, it makes for an incredibly busted Pokemon. Oh, and on top of all that, Zacian is incredibly bulky. We think of Magearna, which has the same types and the same 115 defense and special defense as Zacian, as being incredibly bulky, but Zacian has a higher HP stat. It just makes no sense why this Pokemon should be this damn good. But here's what you need to know about Zacian in a nutshell. Very few Pokemon can take a Zacian attack. Even fewer Pokemon can actually outspeed it. And even fewer Pokemon than that can actually OHKO it without a boosting item. It's just that insane of a Pokemon. Moving on to its typing, Zacian is a Fairy and Steel type, one of the most unique and best types in the entire game. Now, if you guys saw my tier list, I actually posted a video covering the best types, ranking them in order in terms of a tier list. And Steel and Fairy were both in the S tier. And when you put them together, what happens? The best type in the game. Zacian has two weaknesses. One is to ground, the other one is to fire, which are pretty problematic considering the current VGC landscape. You're looking at Pokemon like Incineroar, Landorus T, and Groudon as being super prevalent in the metagame. But all that being said, Zacian still resists 9 types. 9! That's incredible. It resists normal, flying, rock, bug, grass, psychic, ice, dark, and fairy. Oh, and it's also immune to poison and to dragon. So basically 11 types are doing nothing to this Pokemon. That's crazy. On top of that, its stab moves are so incredibly powerful with Behemoth Blade and Play Rough, and we'll get into that a bit later. Moving on to its ability, usually I'd cover Zacian's move pool first, but its ability is just so important to talk about. Intrepid Sword, basically when Zacian comes in, gives it a +1 boost in attack, which is the equivalent of a Choice Band. Now there's a very similar ability called Guerrilla Tactics on Galar Darmanitan, which does the exact same thing in a way, except it locks you into one move, exactly like a Choice Band. So who thought it was a good idea to give a Pokemon with 148 speed and 170 attack a free Choice Band that doesn't lock you into the move? Whoever that was needs to stop making competitive Pokemon. This was not a good idea. Intrepid Sword is one of the best abilities in the game, and no, it's not Intimidate, but it's basically the reverse, which makes it so damn strong. Moving on to its move pool, Zacian gets pretty much everything you could possibly ask for on the physical side. Its moves are incredibly powerful, and there's so many damn good ones. But here are the ones it runs most commonly. We're looking at something like Behemoth Blade, which is incredible in VGC and Smogon since Dynamaxing is legal. Essentially, Behemoth Blade is a 100 base power steel move with no downside. And then when you go up against a Pokemon that's Dynamaxed, it does 200 base power, which is so incredibly strong. Like I said, that's very good for VGC. It also gets close combat, which is so important for its moveset because Steel and Fairy is resisted by 2 types, Fire types and Steel types. And those types are taking huge damage from close combat. Being 120 base power, it is so damn strong, especially with a Pokemon that's at +1 with 170 base attack. It also gets Wild Charge, which is huge considering that this Pokemon is able to break through bulky waters now, which normally would be kinda checking it because they resist Steel. Other coverage that Zacian gets is Play Rough, Crunch, Sacred Sword, which is good for setup, and Quick Attack for a bit of priority. Other than that, some non-attacking moves that Zacian gets that are really popular, you're gonna see Protect a lot in VGC. Swordsdance is incredibly powerful. There's Agility for a bit of speed boosting, Substitute to dodge any status, and then Sleep Talk in case you're getting put to sleep. Zacian's move pool may be a little bit limited, but it gives you everything that you could possibly need on this Pokemon. Anything more and it would be way too good. If you gave this thing Earthquake, it would be a wrap, it'd be way too good. And it already is way too good. Moving on to its items, it's the Rusted Sword. That is the only item that Zacian-Crowned can actually use, which isn't a bad thing. It gives it the Steel typing, which is what makes it so much better than its regular counterpart. It still gets Intrepid Sword as its ability, which is nice, but of course, that's steel typing. Getting Stab on Behemoth Blade is incredibly powerful and the best thing that you could possibly run on a Zacian, in my opinion. Now that could be a little bit of a downside considering that you can't run a Choice Scarf on this Pokemon, but it's already fast enough. You just want the attack and as much power output as possible given the game state that you're going to be facing off against. Moving on to potential partners, we're going to look at VGC first, starting off with Incineroar. Incineroar just spams Intimidate, that's what it does best. But on top of that, it also resists fire for a Zacian, which is really nice, and it has knockoff support for it too. Parting Shot as well will let you be able to live longer because you're weakening the damage output that other Pokemon are going to be doing to your Zacian. Other than that, we're looking at Rillaboom, which is fantastic because it weakens the ground type attacks, or the earthquakes rather, coming Zacian's way, which is huge for Zacian in terms of support, and Zacian doesn't need to be going for ground moves itself. There's Tapu Fini, which is great because you're able to prevent a lot of these statuses that are going to come Zacian's way. You don't want to be burned, you don't want to be Thunder Wave, and having this terrain up without need for priority is really, really important. Then we have Gmax Grimmsnarl, which is amazing. Mostly though, for screens. Screens in this competitive metagame right now in VGC are so incredibly good, especially with a Light Clay. Then there's Kyogre. Now Kyogre is really good because it destroys the opposing ground and fire types that are going to come in and try and do damage to Zacian, which is huge. So a Choice Scarf Kyogre is an absolute menace and an amazing partner with a Zacian on your team. Then for some Pokemon for Smogon that I would pair with it. I'm looking at Pokemon like Yveltal. Why Yveltal though? Well, some of the best counters to Zacian aren't really counters, they're more so ways to just break it after it's already done work, so fast revenge killers, something like a Caloric Shadow or an Eternatus. So having a Boots Yveltal, especially defensive Yveltal, can be really good to deal with those Pokemon. Then there's Xerneas. Now Xerneas is great because it helps pressure Duskmane Necrozma, which is the best check to Zacian. Having a way to really pressure that thing allows us so that Zacian or Xerneas, vice versa, can just go and break through the team and sweep, because most people have 1 or 2 checks to these Pokemon at most, and nothing more than that. As for Pokemon I would not pair with Zacian, we're going to stick with VGC over here. Most of the time, you can pair Zacian with anything. You really can because it's just that good. But these are Pokemon that are still good in the metagame, but that I would not pair considering certain team compositions or other reasons. Starting off with Dusclops. Dusclops is basically like a hard Trick Room Pokemon, that's kind of all it does. And there are other better Trick Room setters to pair with Zacian. You can put Zacian on a Trick Room team even though you're 148 base speed. It's just not going to be effective in the Trick Room. Either way, Dusclops just doesn't do a job well enough compared to something like Mimikyu does or Porygon 2, because they have other better matchups than Dusclops would. Then there is Solgaleo. Now Solgaleo I like a lot. It's a really good Pokemon, it does very similar things though to Zacian. So pairing Solgaleo with Zacian as your Ubers, your 2 restricted Pokemon in VGC Series 12 is just not a right decision to make. This Pokemon is good, but again, too similar to Zacian. Now let's look at some team examples. We're looking at Pokemon teams for VGC and for Smogon Anything Goes. Starting off with the team for VGC, shout out to Osiris, who I got the team from. This team focuses on getting screens up for Zacian with Gmax Grimmsnarl. It also has a supportive win condition with the sun in the background with Groudon plus Gmax Venusaur. And on top of that, it kind of disincentivizes Intimidate by having a Defiant Thundurus with Brick Break to deal with opposing screens and just Fly, Wild Charge for those powerful Dynamax moves. Then there's a team that we have for Smogon for Anything Goes. Shout out to Joey Pokegame for this team. This team here has triple Zacian. 2 of them are going to be the regular non-crowned Zacian, but they're holding a choice band. And then there is this specific Zacian set that we see over here, which is just incredible with the Swords Dance. It is so damn strong. This team, insane. I've tried it out a little bit in Anything Goes. It is really, really strong. That's it. In less than 10 minutes, you know how to use Zacian-Crowned. If you guys liked the video, do me a favor and leave a like on the video. It really helps the channel out a lot. Also, commenting is the absolute best way to help the channel grow. So if you guys made it this far, comment the letter Z or Z, whichever part of the world you're from, to let me know that you made it this far. Also, if you want to see more videos like this, you can click on the card at the top right of your screen to be able to see more videos. The entire playlist of all the how-to-use guides are there. Also, if you want to vote on the next Pokemon I cover, make sure to follow me on Twitter and give me suggestions down in the comments. For more Pokemon content, make sure to subscribe. And you made it to the end of the video, so you probably liked at least a little bit of it. So, hit the sub button, damn it. But thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.